Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first panel discussions of the World Anti-Corruption Conference 2024. My name is Dr. Charapon Rangsit. As the MC already introduced me, and I will be the moderator for the session 1 and session 2. So, ladies and gentlemen, this session will be 60 minutes in total, including an 8-minute presentation by each speakers and a Q&A session. After the individual address, we will have some selected questions for the speakers for about 20 minutes, and we'll conclude the session with some questions from the audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first topic of the discussion is empowering SMEs in the age of globalization, strategies to combat corruption. So to give you guys a little bit more of information, according to the OECD, small and medium-sized enterprises are predominant in the business world, contributing significantly to global GDP and driving employment and innovation. However, they often lack the necessary resources to stay updated with best practices in anti-corruption and compliance. So SMEs often encounter corruption in various forms, including bribery, extortion, and fraud, especially in countries with weak governance structures. So this session will explore how globalization impacts SMEs and discuss effective strategies to combat corruption, enabling these enterprises to thrive in an increasingly interconnected world. And it aims to create a collaborative platform where stakeholders can share insights, develop actionable strategies, and committed to support SMEs in their fight against corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our panelists of the sessions. First of all, Mr. Tan Sri Abu Qasim bin Mohammed, the former Chief Commissioner of Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission from Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him on stage. Second panelist, Mr. Ang Yut. He's the Managing Director of the Advantage Consultant Pte. Limited, a digital solution company. He also served as the President of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises from Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank you. And lastly, the wherever you like, sir. And lastly, the Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, the Faculty of Law, Rangsit University. Please welcome Dr. Nidawan Prasunthorn. All right, as I already mentioned before, that we will start with individual address for about 8 to 10 minutes. And if you need to use a presentation and clicker, please let me know. Okay, I have it prepared for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Tan Sri Abu Qasim bin Mohammed, the former Chief Commissioner of Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, to deliver an individual address. Please, sir, the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This morning, based on this topic that given, I just wanted to share with you on the experience, a real experience, on dealing with SME and how SME can say no to corruption indeed. As a former Chief Commissioner, when way back 2010 to 2015, I deal a lot with the SME. We have a dialogue and discussion with the SME. And one of the issues, the SME said that, look, it's easy for you to ask us to say no to corruption, but in reality, if we don't pay, we die. If we pay, we die. Then I said, what do you mean? If we pay, you will get us. We will get in trouble. If we don't pay, we don't have business. The reality, because it is the culture of this country that you have to pay. That when I was the chief commissioner. Today, I am the chairman of few companies. I also an advisor for about nearly 70 companies. There is companies from the small company and also medium companies. And I start to realize that when I was the chief commissioner, my leg do not touch the soil and the land. The reality is different. The reality that we have to face with the real issue, how to deal with, how to say no to corruption, especially the SME. It's not easy, but there are areas, there are possibility, and there are methodology to find ways of to say no. Of course, OECD, UNODC have all the guidelines and so on. But you don't answer yet. They didn't answer the reality of how to say no. The question is very simple. If you don't pay, you die. And how to go about it? Yes, I would like to share with you on certain cases as an advisor of quite about 70 companies. There is one occasion where the company was approached by the authorities in the offices, asking them to sponsor a golf tournament from organizing and also the gift that's supposed to be given to golf players and the champion. The amount is quite big. And the company came and see me saying that, look, you are our advisor. Please advise us to give or not to give. This is about our life. If we don't give, we die. If we give, we also die. Then I said, look, reject it. Don't give. Don't ask. When they ask you to organize a golf tournament, it involves hundreds and thousands of costs. The money involved is quite big. So don't you ever comply with it. But after that, let us discuss. After you reject, then come back to me. So they rejected it. They write a letter, they say, I'm very sorry, it is not our policy to organize due to directive of any authority, and furthermore, you have an official dealing with us and so on. Under the law, we cannot allow that to happen. Then, again, after they came back and see me, I said, do you have an allocation for CSR and also to get a partnership by organizing a golf tournament? I said, why you do that? I said, you just organize a golf tournament, not because of they asked for you. You organize a golf tournament because you wanted to bring all your customers, your associate, together with you, not because of them. That's a very thin line. As a practitioner in those both worlds, as in law enforcement and also now corporate players, we must know how to say no and limit ourselves so that we don't get involved. You don't try to please them, but you do what is right. Organize a golf tournament and invite everybody, including them. That is not a kind of action that due to their demand. And secondly, I also like to share with you, I have an experience where a company been paying at about 20,000 ringgit, is about what? About 50,000 US dollar at about 50,000 every year to be allocated to the officers, the salesmen that deal with the road transport department. It is a small company, I will say that, but they deal with vehicles and so on. And they said that we have to pay. If we don't pay, then it's very difficult for us to get easy approval for the vehicle that we brought in from overseas. Then what are you supposed to do? It's okay. Then the officers, I said, why not you try to do and try to comply with everything that what the road transport department want. The first occasion will be difficult, the second occasion will be difficult, the third occasion will be difficult, maybe the fourth occasion, they start realizing this company will not pay anything, and they go by standard. They try their best to comply everything. Today, they don't have to pay. Of course, in the few occasions, they have a problem. Creating a brand for a company is so important. a brand of company that they don't want to get involved in paying bribe. It's very important because once you start to give, then it's very difficult for you to stop. Because in advising about 70 companies, the thing keep coming. And what the most difficult thing for SME to deal with when there is a demand of political donation. This is about reality. I'm not talking about conceptual here. I'm talking about reality. From time to time, especially during near election, the political party will ask a donation. They call it donation, but if they don't give, the next government will not entertain you in any contract. There is the perception, there is the possibility of the psychology perspective of a businessman and also company in this area. How to deal with this? What I advise them, I said, please, make it a clear policy. Make it a clear policy on what is your stand. And make sure that your policies and the law is so important. Your policy must be concurrent with the law. It cannot be contrary. It cannot be contrary. If you wanted to give a politician, the board of directors must set a standard. The board of directors must get an approval, and your policy must be very clear. That's why when I was called back in the government to reform the government, one of the issues that I drafted is on adequate measure for companies in preventing themselves from entangled with corporate liability. As you know that in America, there is Foreign Corrupt Practices Act 1977, and also the UK Anti-Bribery Act 2010, and Malaysia, we have our Section 17A about corporate liability was passed in 2018 and was enforced in 2020 because we want 2 years that we request from the government to make sure that we educate all the companies, including small company, medium company, and big company. Today we talk about SME. Do you think that the big company do not involve in bribing? In 1999, when I was in Paris at the OECD conference, during this conference, I have discussion with the developed countries, big companies, and also their players. One of the discussion is on paying bribe. When we ask them, especially one country, and their companies, a lot of their companies been charged in US because of paying bribe. Allow me to say it, German. When we have discussion with this organization, say, why you, because in German, at that particular time, if you pay bribe to other countries, to developing countries, when you wanted to make investment, it's tax deductible. And you can imagine that when we ask why you have that kind of law, they said, look, the politician, the leaders in that particular country is a must. It's their culture to give them bribe. It's the same argument by the SME when we wanted to introduce the law on corporate liability. They say it is the culture of the government servant to accept bribe. Yes, we understand there is a culture. But at the same time, you also have to change your culture. Because if we don't impose that, if the United Nations Convention do not impose that, if OECD do not impose the importance of corporate liability, the game in this economy, especially in the global economy, is not very even. It's not fair. You can see. And I don't want to say it out clear. There are few countries now in the world are very strong in giving bribe. They are becoming bigger and bigger. They're becoming strong and strong. But again, one day we hope that this country will sign and have a law on corporate liability. Because I believe for SME to really deal on dealing with corruption and how to say no, there are 5 areas that if they can proceed or they can give focus. Next, please. The area is, I don't have the controller. Oh, okay. All right. I thought that they... We have about 2 minutes left. All right. Okay. This is the 5 areas that I introduced to the government way back in 2020. during the enforcement of the corporate liability law. Most crucial, if you look at the first element, is about the top management. From the study, we found that about nearly 50% of corruption in the company involve at the board of directors of senior staff of the company. And another interesting thing, a lot of companies against corruption, when come to reality, about nearly 30% of them may get involved into corruption without they realize it. Because their interpretation of corruption is very different. Their interpretation of corruption is those people who receive bribery is corruption. If we've been forced to give bribery, it's not our fault. It's the fault of the government officer. We have been forced to do that. Again, the mindset, the psychology perspective of the businessman have to be changed. They must be unlearned about the perspective of definition of corruption. Corruption not only involved between government and corporate sector, but also involved between private sector and private sector. That's why corporate liability in all the law in the world address the issue of outbound corruption, where they cannot give. If they give, they will implicate with the corporate liability law. And can you imagine that many, many big companies in the world, Siemens, even the latest one, Goldman Sachs, Alcatel, and they've been sued by DOJ, and the amount of money is, we are talking about hundreds of millions. Like Siemens, nearly 900 million was charged by the American society, the American authority, due to the implication of his involvement in paying bribe all over the world. This is happened in way back in 1980s, 90s, and early 20s, due to the government policy at that particular time, allowing of tax deductible when they involve with developing countries. The chairman tell me that I have, my time is up, although it's only my introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, especially for your insights and very, wow, your experiences is something that really, really important, very valuable. Thank you very much, sir. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Anggut, the Managing Director of the Advantage Consultant and the President of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. Please, sir, stage yours.
Hi, everyone. Very glad to be able to sit here today and share from the perspective of Singapore SMEs. Just to give everyone a background, in Singapore, in terms of number of SMEs, we have about 250,000 SMEs. For a very small country of less than 3 million population local plus another 2 million population foreign workers, right, coming to about 6 million. For 250,000 enterprises, small and medium enterprises, that's quite a large number. The definition in Singapore for what constitutes an SME is a very broad range. Anything below 100 million Singapore dollars in turnover or less than 200 staff qualifies you to be an SME. So if you think about the broad scheme, if you are a business that has 500 workers and doing 50 million in turnover, you are an SME. Or you are a company employing 2 person and you have a business of $1 billion in turnover, you are still an SME. So it's a very, very broad range, right? But I think for the business for our association, of course, our association doesn't have 250,000 members. We have about 7,000 reach. And what we try to do is we really speak for the case of SMEs in Singapore. And I was looking at this topic, right, about corruption. I think from Singapore, we do have a very unique perspective. And I hope to kind of share it from our angle and see if it can have a takeaway for all parties. Firstly, I think from the angle of an SME, why is corruption bad for industrial development and industrial progress? I think fundamentally it's really about inequality, right? And uneven and unequal opportunities. And from one SME to the next, you know, who has the advantage and who gets to go ahead, that becomes a question if there's an underlying issue of corruption or other systemic problems. And if you think from the economy and economic building perspective, all of this, if there are corruption and other systemic issues, it results in increased costs of the economy. The cost doesn't go to making the economy better or making people's lives better. It creates uncertainty for business. So as a business, I don't know what to invest in. What should I invest in? Because I'm not sure whether my investment is going to stay or it's going to go or it's not going to give me that kind of returns depending on who is in charge and who has power. It also creates a shadow economy, which is an economy underneath that doesn't reflect the real economy that most of us can see. And fundamentally, your resources are not optimally allocated. I think that's very real for us. And even from the perspective of a Singapore SME, we can see challenges around not specific corruption, but we can always look at allocation of resources as an area that we can improve and optimize. Right, I think that there are three things that I want to share around the perspective of a Singapore SME and corruption and strategies to combat corruption. I think first, if any of you study the Singapore system, you'll know that foundationally there's a very strong foundation. So the first point is really foundational rules. I think the country itself was founded on a very strict principle of integrity and trust, and that became the founding principle of Singapore's nation building. If you look at the World Corruption Index, we are ranked number 5 in terms of least corrupt nations. If you all follow the news in Singapore, you would know that in the last slightly over a year, we have had 2 pretty high-profile cases of investigation into corruption. One was around our ministers purchasing government-owned buildings, and we went through a very intense process of investigation. Of course, in the end, it was cleared and it was shown that the ministers were above board. And then more recently, another case where our minister, former minister for transport, was actually charged. He was charged under a section in our constitution called Section 165 for corruptly obtaining favors, obtaining valuable items without consideration. Just as a note, right, the things that he obtained in the charge was 14 bottles of whiskey, 1 Brompton bicycle, 1 business flight ticket, and 10 F1 green room tickets. And if you look at the broad scheme of things, it may not be a lot, but that goes to show the amount of how seriously the government takes obtaining gifts and variations of corruption into account. In this particular instance, if you all follow the news, the prosecution, which is the government attorney, asked for 6 months of jail sentence, and the judge instead gave 12 months of jail because the judge disagreed with both the prosecution and the defense. I think the defense asked for 3 months and the prosecution asked for 6, and the judge actually dished out 12 months of sentence. So that goes to show how seriously the judicial system as well as the government system takes into account this. Now, the challenge with some of these foundational rules actually for SMEs in Singapore is that we find that we always have problems when going abroad and going to the region, because I think Singapore companies are too straight and too law-abiding. So that's one of the challenges Singapore companies have, because in Singapore, the rules are quite transparent and quite easy. So for example, opening a business, if you want to set up a company, if you are a Singapore citizen, it takes anything between 30 minutes to 1 hour online to set up a new company. So it's very easy to open companies in Singapore, and the rules are very straightforward. And the government places a high degree of value in making sure all the rules are open and adhered to. So most recently, we just changed Prime Minister, and the new Prime Minister in his National Day rally shared about the creation of a regulatory improvement or reduction of regulations in Singapore. So he started an office that focused around reducing government regulations to make it easier for businesses to operate and to make it faster. So this is just an example of where I think that foundational rules, right, really help. The second point I have is about openness. The Singapore government is very open in how it shares information and how it makes information publicly available. A very good example is our annual budget announcement. Every year, around February, our finance minister will go into a public broadcast to announce what is in store for the Singapore budget. Now, that is just a 3-hour exercise on public TV, right? But 3 months before that and 3 months after that are a lot of intense preparation for that. And it involves all sectors of society. So me being involved as the president of the association, we as an association get involved in budget recommendation. We get involved in meetings with various ministries to propose what the budget should be and what our recommendations are. So through that process, the government then selects and puts together the final budget, and it gets announced. And after that announcement, there are again a series of engagement where we clarify the details of the budget, and we clarify things that are not so clear around the announcement. And sometimes there are certain programs that are announced that has no clarity, that requires 2 or 3 months to work out. So that to me is a very good example of being very open with every item in the budget. And apart from the budget and in the lead up, we also co-create programs with the government. So as a trade association, it is always open to us to propose programs with a certain budget and a certain industry outcome to the government, and that gets adopted and put into the overall budget as a whole budget to the SMEs, to benefit SMEs. 1 minute. Yeah. So lastly, right, I wanted to say is that there is an opportunity for growth for SMEs in Singapore. I think one interesting thing about the Singapore businesses is that we are very meritocratic centric, to the extent where we as SMEs feel that our larger businesses do not support the smaller businesses, because every business thinks about selecting the best to partner with them. So through the process of meritocracy, it allows for businesses to really work hard at doing well, and the selection process is also very open and very open to questioning, and that really helps us in terms of looking at how to be better. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So I like what you said about fundamental rules and also the openness to the public. That would be something that helps. Thank you so much. The third panelist for session 1, the Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, Faculties of Law, Rangsit University, Dr. Nidawan Prasunthorn. Please, the stage is yours.
Let me stand here because it's easy for me to look at the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, everyone. First, I would like to thank ISI International International Strategy Institute and Rangsit University and all partners around me speaking today. In the era of globalization, we have to admit that numerous issues concerning small and medium enterprises around the globe. However, because we have guests, the presence of guests from Singapore and from Malaysia, today I will be talking about SME in terms of Thailand aspects. As from my experiences and from my research recently, please. I will be talking about the challenges of small and medium enterprises to combat corruption, Thailand perspective. From my own experience in the year of 2000, just graduating from law school, my major was business international law. And after graduating, I practiced in a law firm in Bangkok. I confess I didn't like to go to the court of law. Most of my work are primarily to revise, to rewrite the commercial contracts from our clients, which were small, medium, and even large company, listed public company, both for foreign and domestic in Thailand. As I operated with government officials of my client's project, of course, I encountered a large number of corruption. Even an official asked me to give them a bribe unless they didn't do our paperwork. In the first time, it was kind of practical joke. Is that true? But it is in reality. And from time to time, bribery were not just monetary transaction. It includes like luxury items, concert tickets, airfare, and even summer courses for their children. Yes, like SME didn't have so much choices. They have to pay the bribe or to going out of business. Even like last week, I think that you guys know like toy art, you know, Lala Boo Boo, Boo Boo Lala something. Just some officials requested toy art from our clients. No, it's not a joke, but it's true. And this phenomenon not just take place in our country, Thailand. It's all over the world. Even in the wealthy country like the United States, Japan, they all have this bribery and this impact SME. Because SME do not like large company. They have a lot of money to pay for the bribe. However, many countries issue any measures to combat with corruption, also like a situation in Thailand. We have so many things to say about SME in Thailand that I prepared just like 20 minutes on the stage, but according to you, I just have 8 minutes on the stage. I think that some of slides might not be explained, but if anyone would like the explanation in any slides, let me know. I will be explained in the second round. I would like to talk about like SME in Thailand and its barriers. Impacts of corruption on SME, substantial laws and regulation. Thailand Corruption Index, challenges of SME in Thailand, the solution to fight with the corruption in Thailand. First of all, I would like to begin with the situation of SME in Thailand. SMEs play important roles in Thailand economy. You can see that around 3.1 million of SME in Thailand, yes, they force nation economy. And from the report of SME Promotion Office, we can see that SME make like 25.2% of total gross domestic product in Thailand. Yes, that's why we could see many schemes from Thai governments to support SME. If SME in Thailand prosper, yes, it would be the nation living in prosperity. However, there's so many barriers according to the calculations of SME, for example, that I think that it is the most important issues for the firm to access to the finance. Some is just a startup. How could he or she or the investor show the good credit history? It's difficult for them to request the bank loans to raise funds. And if, as we know, if we had just a little money, how could we just pay to buy or invest in the new innovation? And there's so many barriers, and for example, in terms of human resources constraints, yes, we have experts, we have so many skilled laborers in our society. However, how could SME with little money can afford to hire high-skilled people to operate? In terms of like competition limited to get into the market compared to the large company in Thailand or even foreign company. They have kind of large amount of investment. Even they can attempt to pay the bribe. How can like SME afford to pay that? And even more difficult to get into the market or to have market share. The impact of corruption on SME, it causes unfair competition and therefore is the obstacles of economic growth in Thailand. The time is out. Just a little bit. Yes, in Thailand we have so many attempts from government to fight for corruption, including laws and regulations. And the question is, if the government enforce the law well, I think that it's a great chance to fight for corruption that it will make SME thrive in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nidawan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have like 15 minutes left for the session, so I think we have to move on to the Q&A sessions. I have a question for, this one would be for Mr. Tansi Abu Kazim and Mr. Angyut. So the question is, how can SMEs effectively build a culture of integrity and transparency within their organizations. Please, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Not only in the organization, but also in the country, the most important is the leadership, the board of directors and also senior leadership. They must show a good example. They must show a real commitment in fighting corruption. And they themselves have to show, walk the talk. They have to become the example of the whole society. That is if they have that environment, then the 50% war is there already. Then we can go to the second stage by all the companies should look into doing the risk assessment and make sure that the highest risk of the SME company been addressed effectively. They should not go on the low risk, but they have to go to the highest risk and to ensure that the highest risk resources of the company, manpower and all that, to be addressed on doing some mitigation on the high-risk area. Third, they must make sure that they have internal control by policies and procedures in place. For example, policies on gift, policies on whistleblower, policies on dealing with conflict of interest and all that. All the issue of integrity policy must be clear, must be trained to the officers, staff, and also those dealing with them, the contractor, the suppliers, and so on. They must deal and communicate with them as effective as possible. They must make sure that the training of code of conduct is not mere monologue. There should be a case study. Because all the studies show that a lot of people get in trouble in corruption because they do not know how to deal with the gray area. The black and the white is easy for you to define. When it comes to gray area, a lot of people get involved in corruption, regardless where they are, how good you are, how clean your organization. When it comes to the gray area, at about 25%, who claim, out of 100%, who claim that they really wanted to fight corruption, but 25% will get involved. If we show them on the case study on the gray area, some of them will say that it's okay to get involved. So the culture process of changing the culture and the integrity in any organization, especially SME, it cannot be by giving lecture monologue, but must be based on case study and role play and a different game in dealing and communicating with those involved in corruption. Thank you.
Hi. I think that from the perspective of an SME, I think we need to look at openness foundationally. And why I say that is, give you an example. This year, Singapore government implemented a flexible working arrangement guideline. It will come into effect in December. And what it states is that it asks SMEs and all businesses to have an open process in terms of any staff that comes to you and requests for flexible working arrangement. Whatever the flexible working arrangement is, whether it's working from home or flexible hours or flexible load. A lot of SMEs, before the proper announcement and clarification was made, they were concerned that it would make the staff feel entitled and staff all don't want to come to office to work. Because of this problem, people prefer to work from home. When we clarified, what the SMEs realized was that actually we were encouraging that SMEs have a proper process or an explicit process for the staff to apply and for the company to reject if the grounds are not favorable. So I think this is a good example of open communications. And I think that if we use that as an example and build open communications, whether it's around processes, whether it's around the way a company does things, the way a company hires, I think it will create that trust and integrity foundation that we can build from there. So I think that perspective is where we can start, and from that direction you go further and think of yourself as a citizen of the world, and what would your company be like if you want to be a citizen, a corporate citizen of the world. I think that's my answer.
Thank you very much, sir. I have another question, but this one is more specific for Dr. Nit Dawan, since she's in the Faculty of Law. Okay, so this question is about the Thai law, right? So does Thailand have law about, anti-corruption and how effective it is? And what is your suggestion for, developing this kind of law and regulations? Please, ma'am.
Thank you for the question. Please, you would like to see my slide? That I mentioned before, that we could see the attempts of Thailand government to so many procedures to fight for corruption, including have some create new laws and they try to enforce it well, but have to admit that Thailand corruption index is not in moderate level, not good and not bad. Let's see, Thailand corruption index in the year 2023, Thailand scored 35 and ranked 108 out of 180 countries in corruption perception index last year. Not moderate means not good and not bad. Please. So a large number of law. Let's see. Okay. We have the establishment of anti-corruption, which is independent organization in Thailand, from 20 years ago. And we also have Anti-Corruption Act, Organic Act on Culture Corruption, Public Sector Ethics Acts, Disclosure Laws, Whistleblower Protection Act, and Public Procurement Act. Yes, I have just a limited of time. Just focusing on Public Procurement Act. In Chapter 2, the law states that all partners should participate in corruption from anti-corruption. And it appears that all partners of the project, for example, government agency who initiate the project and the business operator all assign an integrity pact, all have to admit to refrain on the corruption that could be occur in the future. Secondly, the law also insists that public observation can see all the process of the procurement of all the projects. That I hope that this is outstanding measures that could help fighting corruption in Thailand. Some argue that an integrity pact are only in the paper. How could government enforce them? But I think that we have integrity pact is better nothing, just like in the past that nothing, no investigation, no public observation. But I optimistic that two outstanding procedures in the law should help fighting corruption in Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Wow. So we have been listening to a lot of experience and suggestions from the panelists today. Unfortunately, our time is very limited, and the lady over there is, trying to pressuring me all the time. So, I would like to spend the last minutes to thank you very much, all the panelists. So thank you so much for being with us today. I understand that you have to travel to Thailand in order to be here today. So thank you so much. And I believe that your insight, your experiences, and especially your suggestion will benefit us all to a very great extent. So thank you very much, sir and madam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our moderator and panelists. Please remain on the stage, because before we proceed to the second panel, we would like to grant you the token of appreciation. And by this means, we would like to invite Dato Haji Nik Suhaimi bin Nik Sulaiman. Please come up on the stage and give our panelists the token of appreciation. Thank you. Ms. Nidawan, we need to have a group photo for session 1. Please come back up. So thank you very much, everyone. We would like to ask you to come into the middle to have a panel group photo. Please, in the middle. Thank you. Amazing.